So that was a super fun conversation with Jordan. I think you're going to enjoy the, the honesty about dealing with ADHD and how it applies to being an entrepreneur in your business. Also, the discussion around productivity and, my thoughts on what does it actually mean to be productive, because I think it's totally different than the way most people think about managing, creating, delegating to-do lists. It's completely different. And then we talk about business models, and I think that one of the most important and powerful decisions you're going to make in the early days of starting a company is the kind of business you want to create, and having extremely huge dreams and broad aspirations around doing that, and then also the business model that you're going to adopt to make sure that you build. And I talk about this heavily, the gross margin. If you don't know what that word is, it's essentially the profit from doing the work so that you can reinvest it into the business. And we talk about a few other things. And I think there's moments where Jordan wasn't really jiving with some of the advice I've given him, but I learned a long time ago, I'd rather be straight with people so that they understood exactly what I mean than to back away because I just didn't feel like they were ready to hear what it is. And I think if you look between the conversations and the questions and the structure, you'll find some really important lessons to apply to your business. Jordan, appreciate you making the trip. I actually know very little about why we're meeting today. I guess you must have seen. Can you kind of give me the download?
I saw your announcement, the live stream.
On YouTube?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
And then you emailed Stephanie?
Yeah.
And then you live in Toronto?
Yeah.
Super cool. All right, cool.
Yeah, so she messaged me yesterday. And
fast. Normally people fly to me. I just happened to be in the day, had some open spots, and Stephanie, it was kind of fun because I was like, oh, Jordan, who's this guy? All right, it's in my calendar. I guess that's just, so we're actually like running, had to get some green juice. Anyways, what is your business?
It's managed IT services.
Cool. And what would make our conversation a 10 out of 10?
Well, I brought a couple of questions.
Cool.
One of the things that sort of got my attention with your channel was when you did the video about ADHD.
Okay.
Like being an entrepreneur
That's probably
with ADHD.
one of my most popular. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm in that position. So I have some of those.
Do you take medication?
Some of those difficulties. Yeah.
Okay. What do you take? Ritalin, Adderall?
Vyvanse.
Vyvanse. I don't even know that one.
Yeah. Vyvanse is the sort of.
Oh, I've heard of Vyvanse.
Yeah. It's time release. It's sort of infinitely adjustable.
Does it help?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so if you don't take it, you're kind of fucked.
Yeah.
Like productivity-wise.
Well, and it depends what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I have to take different
Paperwork,
amounts.
taxes.
Yeah, I have to take different amounts depending on what kind of work I'm doing.
Cool, so that resonated, and then what, so that's cool on the show. What can I help with?
Well, first thing I was going to ask you about is strategies for productivity, motivation, systems, anything like that that helped you, especially in the earlier phases when you didn't have teams to delegate to do all the hard stuff.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, so the interesting part is that even though I have a team today, I still, and if you ask my team, they'll probably cringe because I definitely have thoughts on things, process systems, etc. Why don't we deconstruct your day and try to put it back together? What seems to be the challenge right now?
Well, I have almost an infinite number of different things that need attention, right? With the business and other
and what
things,
is your
but we can
business?
focus on
Managed
the
IT, what
business.
does that mean?
It means you take care of managed infrastructure. So
cool. What's it called?
Computers, networks, security, backup.
What's it called?
Kalevtech.
Kalevtech. How many people?
It's 3 or 4.
Okay, 3 to 4. Are they contractors?
But
or
there's
full-time?
but there's a lot of the stuff gets done by other organizations. So so there's big teams.
So those 3 to 4 work for you.
Yeah.
Okay. Are they full-time or contract?
They're contract. They're kind of like my business partner runs services for other managed service providers.
Okay.
Right. So they're not like my full-time employees, but they're available as needed.
Okay. Are they working on client work for you?
Yeah.
Like they're doing work for your company.
Yeah, they can do.
You have the client relationship. They do the work.
Right. That's the main. Like I'm doing a bunch of the work now.
Okay. But still, those people do client work. They're not. I mean, the difference is: are they doing work for you internally, or are they doing work with clients? Like, are they interacting with clients?
Yeah, they're interacting with clients.
Perfect. And then you bill them out, and then
yeah.
Okay, cool. So I get that. What's the challenge around that? Like, what are you hoping to? what do you want to get done this year? 2018, what do you want to get done at the end of the year?
It's most of my challenges are sales.
Okay, cool.
I mean, there's lots of other stuff, and that's the thing, right? There's almost an unlimited amount of urgent or semi-urgent problems to solve, things that could be better, and so on.
So
right?
it's
given that there's so much.
It's interesting because urgent to me means no planning. So that's what I think that I find fascinating is when I deconstruct a company. I coach a lot of really high-performing founders. Usually when they're in an urgency responsive mode, it's because there's a lot of stuff they haven't planned for and they don't have a system, or they try to do too many things. So let's try to break that down. So it seems like you're smiling to the too many things.
A bit of both.
Yeah. So what does an average, and we're going to work back to how this applies to productivity, but what does an average client look like for you guys? How big of a deal is it? How many months is it? What's the kind of value of a client?
Well, some of the newer clients that I've gotten are in that sort of 10-seat range.
Okay.
Right? But I'm aiming
what's that revenue?
That's like $500 a month.
Okay, so $500 a month per seat, or $500?
No, it's 500 to 1,000, let's say.
For a customer?
Yeah. Per
okay, and how long are they going to stick around?
You mean like the setup?
How long, if I become a client of yours, on average, how long are they going to stick with you?
Oh, it's pretty long in managed services.
Okay,
it's
so
like,
3+
like, say,
years.
5 years, yeah.
Okay, so your deals right now are on an annualized basis about $6,000. Cool. And how are most of those deals coming to you?
Mostly referrals at this point, although I've done walk-ins. I'm starting to do.
How long have you been building your business?
It's I'd say about a year in its current form.
Okay, cool. So it sounds like there's iterations.
Yeah.
What do you want to see revenues end next year, 2018?
Say 150K, something like that.
Okay, 150K total revenues for the business?
Yeah.
But you're already 3 or 4 people.
Yeah, but those 3 or 4 people are as needed and are much less expensive than regular employees would be in Toronto.
Got it. So they're not Toronto, they're not full-time?
Right, and then there's another thing. There's another way of outsourcing this stuff to a company in Toronto. Same thing. It's like it's proportional to the number of seats.
Yeah.
So it's not like I don't have any full-time employees that are helping me with like administrative stuff.
I guess the challenge is just like even aiming for 150,000 top line revenue in a 12-month period is really hard. Like, here, and this gives me everything I need for context, right?
Yeah. Okay.
Is step one. There's always a distribution curve of value on task, right? And if you look at like the 80-20 rule, Pareto's law, there's essentially 20% of your activities attribute 80% of the value that you create. Essentially, that's the argument, is that you could work 80%, you could not work 80% of the year and make the same amount of money if you actually understood where the value is being created and only do those things. The challenge for most businesses is they don't have the time to stop and actually ask themselves, what things do I do on a daily basis that are the highest value returns, right? They think, well, I do client work, I got to do marketing, I got to get customers, I got to hire, I got to manage people. Yes, you do, and no, you don't, right? So if you just thought of like the highest value stuff that you do today on a daily basis, what would that stuff be?
It's got to be sales. Like I need more clients and quickly, and
it could be
it
sales.
Solves a lot of the problems.
Agreed.
Right.
I'm having a hard time trying to correlate sales and 150,000 top line revenue. Because anybody that does sales and manage IT, their quota is, I would say, $500,000 in quota.
Yeah.
Just for a salesperson.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I can sort of give you a bit of reasoning behind that. It's because I in my first, I said there's iterations. In the first iteration, I tried to do everything at once.
Yeah.
Fast. With raise some money and try to do it all fast, and it was just too much for me, right? So I'm doing it at a pace, the fastest pace where I can handle it and feel in control of things. Yeah. Right. And so I don't, that's not the. I want to get it to a point where it's working, and then attract essentially. This is on to like one of my other questions, a business partner. Yeah. Who can handle a lot of the administrative detail work, overhead, and so on, so I can start to focus on my strengths. And at that point,
what are your strengths?
That point, dealing with people, sort of networking. I understand the tech stuff, so I'm like sort of the bridge between business and business people and the IT side of things, right? So yeah.
Okay, so okay, so let's just talk about sales. I agree, sales could be high leverage, but honestly, like doing high value client work, like there could be some work that you're doing that's just worth a lot more, right? It could be the way you're presenting the solution. It could be like, I don't know how much effort it takes to close a $6,000 contract, but I know that if you put a fully baked marketing and a sales in front of it, $6,000 is not going to allow you to scale the business, right? Now, if you just want to do 150 grand a year, then that's totally cool. It's just it's not
the ultimate goal.
You asked
me inside a gear. I think that a business like this should be like in the $3 million range for it to be worthwhile.
Do you want to build a $3 million a year business? Okay, then step one, next year cannot be a 150 goal. Like, just can't. There's the forcing function of the top line revenue being 150 is not great enough to force you to make the decisions you're going to need to make to build that kind of organization. I wouldn't want you to learn the habits of a 150 revenue business because they won't serve you to get to 3 million. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Cool. So let's pretend we're going to set at least the goal for $250,000. Okay? Because if you're clearly talented and you could probably go if you were to go to the market and get paid in a company, what do you think you could get as a salary?
I'd say starting like 70, 80K.
Yeah, if not more. Yeah. Like, it sounds like you're pretty smart.
Yeah, I'd probably become important and make more eventually.
Yeah, exactly. So let's call it 100K.
Okay.
So if all you did next year was got a job, you'd be at 100K. So to me, that's the beginning. If you're actually going to then spend time working on the business, then I would say you'd want to figure out how the side hustle creates another 150,000 in value.
Yeah.
So the primary thing is, it sounds like you're still doing a lot of client work.
Yeah, for
right?
a bit, yeah.
Because most people don't analyze it. If you actually extracted the amount of hours you put into your business and took the revenue, most people are working minimum salary jobs, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's step one. How does your week look in regards to where you spend your time and energy?
It varies a lot because if I get a new client, like I did a couple weeks ago, then that's my next week or two is a lot of setup there.
Okay.
And getting it sorted out. But a lot of the stuff is automated or delegated after that. So then it's back to a whole bunch of administrative stuff and sales, right? And try to get out there and talk to people. Go to a lot of it's networking. A lot of it's talking to people.
So what is it about the onboarding a new client that requires you to do it?
Mostly it's just a money thing at the moment, right?
So essentially the economics of a new customer doesn't allow you to actually pay somebody else to do the work.
It would eventually, right? But
would eventually, at this point, lifetime value, maybe, but today it wouldn't.
Yeah.
So right off the bat, that tells me that there could be something wrong with your business model.
Managed services is a pretty
I'm not saying it's a good business to be in. I'm not saying, I don't know. All I'm saying is,
it's at an early stage. I'd say that it's at an early stage. I don't have a lot of money to move around with, right? So I'm growing it, getting new clients, and then I'll have the money to. I had a full-time assistant for a while, but I just couldn't sustain it. So I'll get to that point where they can do most of that onboarding stuff, and I can delegate most of that, and then so that I can spend more time building it. That's where I'm at with it, and I know that it's slower than perhaps optimal. But I'm prone to overwhelm and when I was trying to do everything fast, it ended up like not being sustainable for me. Right?
Got it.
Yeah.
I think the challenge is if you don't build the model right, that it'll be hard for you to scale.
Yeah.
And so like most consulting type businesses, the contractor, the person doing the work, at minimum wants to build themselves out or create enough value to justify 60 an hour or 75 an hour, right? And then typically, and if you look at like kind of the 4 buckets of type of work, there's admin, there's doing the work, there's management, and there's strategic. On the low end, the admin work, these are like $10 tasks. And then the work of the work is a $100 task. If your business model doesn't support you to pay somebody to do your work, at some point, like there's some logical direction that says like I can pay somebody enough to be able to charge the customer so that I can make enough gross margin to be able to reinvest in the business, I would reevaluate that, right? So I'm feeling like a lot of the whatever you did before stressed you out?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
But
what,
I mean,
what did you?
I learned a
okay,
lot.
so what did you learn, and how is that not going to happen again?
I learned a lot about the business model, like what works and who's doing what and who the players are in the city and so on and so forth.
How did you go about learning that?
A lot of it was research. There's a great section of Reddit where it's actually owners of this sort of company all over the place, like all over North America mostly, but also in Europe, who have a lot of conversations sort of there about every little aspect of it. Yeah. There's some books that have been published that are by people who started and scaled successful ones, so on and so forth. Like when it was brought to me at the beginning by the person that I'm working with, or my partner, you know, it seemed like he had it all figured out, and it wasn't the case, right? Yeah. So there was a lot more learning.
Got it.
And so now
how can I help the most? Because I just feel like a lot of the stuff I could.
I know. Look, the biggest thing that needs to happen is I need to make it work so that it's proven, so that I can attract a business partner, get them on board who's like able to handle a lot of the workload that's like not in my strengths. Okay. So that I can just go out there and make deals and try and get bigger clients and so on and so forth. Okay. Right? That's my.
I'm not saying I agree with that. Yeah. But I hear what you're saying.
Yeah. That's my thinking on it. Okay. At this point.
How can I help?
First of all, I was asking about time management. The other thing is getting a partner, right? A partner who's got opposite strengths.
So let's talk about time management real quick, because one, if I was spending 2 weeks of my time onboarding clients, that would be the first thing I would get rid of and off my plate. Right. Right off the bat. It's kind of like if you look at a distribution of where you spend your time, the thing you spend your most time on that doesn't actually like create a lot of value, onboarding clients, is the first thing you should get off your plate, so that, because it's like, I mean, like that's a huge time suck.
Yeah. So,
right? Yeah. So like it's kind of one of those things. It's like, how do you be more productive? You evaluate where you spend your time and then say, how do I spend time doing more high value stuff? Onboarding clients to me is not high value, right? High value is marketing, sales, recruiting, creating a strategy, all that stuff. But then people are like, well, how do I do that if I can't afford to pay people to do that work? It's like, well, you start piece by piece. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like,
and I guess one of the other things is approaching larger clients, like getting into that and being confident going after larger clients. Like I have a way of dealing with those clients. Like I have a good solid supplier to actually, you know, if I got a 100-seat client or something like that, like it's actually in many ways simpler, because
that's the thing, is like the bigger the client, the easier it is, because the revenue and the gross margin is there. Right now it sounds like your competitive advantage is doing smaller type stuff. Like what? I mean, I can't
those
even.
Those are the ones that, some of that's comfort zone, right? Like those are the kind of clients I dealt with historically as a sort of freelancer. Yeah. So I go into those and I know exactly what to do.
And that's what's funny, and this is why I appreciate you asking that question, Jordan. Is people want to talk about productivity, they want to talk about hustle, they want to talk about time, and the biggest opportunity is for them to actually question if what they're doing is the right stuff. And yes, I agree, it's comfort zone. And as long as you don't force yourself out that comfort zone and don't set goals bigger than 150,000 a year, you're like, the probability of you actually building a $3 million business is very low. Like, you know, I've done it, I've helped people do it, and the conversations I have with them is not around, do I feel comfortable to go close the right deals? It's, can you help me design the right business model to be able to support the business? And I feel like that's going to be your ultimate challenge. And what I'm feeling, and I may be wrong, is that in the past you were burned and it hurt and it was frustrating and it probably created anxiety, and that's still present today. And it may be the thing that continues to hold you back, right? Yeah. And it sounds like you're really adamant about finding a business partner to maybe be the thing that's going to unlock that thing for you. And I wouldn't be too quick to say that's the right answer, right? Because how you find a business partner, how you bring them on, how you, I mean, geez, I can't tell you the amount of times I get a call from a person that brought on a business partner, gave them 50% of their business, and the person totally shits the bed, like all the time. And then it's like, well, what happened? It's like, well, I just needed somebody because I couldn't do it. It's like, okay, why didn't you become the person that could do it?
Yeah.
Right? Like, why do you need a business partner? What are they going to do? You can hire somebody that can do the work. If you had a business model that would support or hiring, you know what I mean?
Yeah, if I do a whole bunch of that's sort of what was my change in strategy, was to, instead of trying to do everything fast and messy, to go
but
and
it's
like
not
do
about
it
fast, and I don't understand this fast and messy language. I don't understand what that means. Why is it fast and messy? What's fast and messy?
I think that the first year where I was I was like, okay, this is a good idea. We should get into this thing, and there was a lot of mistakes that were made because I was under pressure to make everything happen very quickly.
Okay,
right?
what were you trying to make?
There was a lot of failures, just sort of caving into overwhelm and so on and so forth. Right, that's why ADHD was a
big
thing that I
thing.
was interested to get your feedback on. Like early stage company.
Yeah.
Like I know how it looks later on, right? When you can go and specialize in your strengths, things are.
No, the beauty about me is that every company I've started, I started from scratch.
Yeah.
Every company, Maritime Vacation, I forget, NB Host, Flowtown, Clarity, what I'm doing now, all the investments I made, there were zero. So I know what it looks like successfully when there are no resources, when you don't have funding. People think, oh, it's like, Dan, it's easy that you have capital. I don't throw money at a problem. Like, I just don't. I know too many people that made a lot of money and then gave it all back. One of the funny things about wealth is people create a lot of wealth and they give it all back. They make a ton of money and the next year they give it all back. Have you ever seen that in your life where you made money and then the next year for some reason it seems like,
oh, you don't make money?
You essentially give it all back. There's just this ebb and flow. So what I do is I always start my businesses the way I start every business, is like the fundamental core of the business. You have to figure that out. So how do I deal with ADHD? I don't do too many things. I guess I'm just good at deciding what do I do today versus what do I do tomorrow. You know what I mean? Like, I know what to say no to. The way to fast track that is get people that have been there and done it before. It sounds like you had a Reddit thread, but
the whole section of Reddit, it's really good.
I don't doubt it is, but it's like the same thing as like trying to learn how to surf reading a book. Mm-hmm. Right? It's like, I
met people in town that run similar companies. Like
cool.
I went out.
Did you pattern match what they were doing versus how you were doing it?
Yeah, like it's easy for me to conceive how it looks when it's a little further along and functioning. But right now, since I'm juggling a bunch of hats, some of them which I'm pretty bad at.
Yeah. Like what are they? What are the bad ones?
Just administrative stuff. There's a lot of systems integration and design and setup to make something like this run smoothly, right? Which takes a lot of energy and time. I know exactly how it should be, but doing it myself is tedious.
Where do you think you're wasting a lot of your time?
Well, I know that I wasted a lot of time trying to make everything like more perfect than it needed to be.
Perfect. Yeah. So that's probably the challenge. Interesting. Cool.
And going after the wrong kind of clients. Like I actually went on a whole little tangent of trying to make a new kind of a sort of new business model servicing individual professionals like real estate agents and all that, and it was a mistake. It was like a comfort zone thing. I was like, I can do this, and it's a reasonably good idea, but it wasn't the right thing to do. I should be going after bigger clients.
Bigger clients.
Yeah.
So if anything you got out of this conversation is working on high value clients. High value means that they're going to have the income to support gross margin, okay? At the end of the day, if what you're getting paid from a client and what it costs you to do the work doesn't have a gross margin involved, it's a bad business to be in.
Yeah. The margins are good because after you do the initial setup, then there are a few problems.
Yeah, if they're so good, then you shouldn't have to do the work. I know they could be good. I know in the future they'll be good. I know bigger clients they'll be good. But that's a decision today, right? So if anything, like there's so many. Recently, a luxury e-commerce conversion rate optimization client, right? Called me, they're like, here's what I'm doing. How do I make this grow? Work with bigger clients, because the small ones, like a $5,000 contract, just the amount of time to set up, you're probably experiencing the setup cost of doing those contracts doesn't allow you to make any profit. If there's no profit, how are you supposed to reinvest in the business? By building a team, hiring an assistant, delegating, implementing software, You know, like there's just no. I mean, that at the end of the day,
it's building up recurring revenue, right? Like the setups. I get paid for the setup. Like the setups are billed extra. So
yeah.
So then it's not a bad way to spend time. Like, maybe I shouldn't be doing it myself, but it's not. It's not like I'm losing
maybe you
money
shouldn't be doing yourself.
Yeah.
If you want to get to the revenue levels you want to, it has to not be you. So what that means is your offering needs to not, like it has to be unique in the market, has to be high value, has to be, what else would I say? Consistent, because that's the other problem with a lot of consultants is everything they do is unique, right? And they can't pay or design a system to make it unique. If every time you do a project, every infrastructure is unique, and you're the only person that has that breadth of experience, then it's hard for you to hire and onboard clients because they all look different. Does that make sense?
They all look different, and then you kind of like, that's what the onboarding process is in this business, right? It's like taking a completely big mess and then putting it onto a system where everything works and is documented properly.
Yeah, so you're telling me there's no clients that all look the same?
Yeah, I'd say that if you go into bigger ones, then there's you're often taking a contract away from another provider, right? So they're going to be set up a little bit more similar to each other. So yeah, but there's still going to be a lot of that initial work. You can build that initial work. It's not like you know, and then once they're set up, it's recurring revenue for a long time.
I know. I guess unless I ask you for your P&L and look at your economics, it's going to be hard for me to just show you this is not working.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's going to be your sticking point. So I don't know if you realize this, but the business today is not really a business. It's essentially, if I took the amount of hours you're working and the team that you've got and the clients you're making and the revenue I can just estimate that you're doing based on your projections for 2018, you're probably getting paid minimum wage-ish.
Yeah, it's because it's at the beginning of a process,
It doesn't have to be. I think that's a belief somewhere that you assume that's not true. It doesn't have to be that way. So I think if you believe it to be true, then great. If you say, no, there's got to be a better way, you'll go on the search for the solution. In regards to productivity, it's literally every week is looking at your previous week, asking yourself, where did you make wins, and tweaking your calendar. And for me, I put everything in my calendar.
Yeah. Like, well, I got that part sorted out. But then I also have sort of somewhat of a system for all the tasks that are pending.
Yeah.
And it becomes a lot very quickly, right? It's a lot, and then there's like, it's very hard to decide where to put the energy when there's a lot of stuff to do, right?
Maybe, I don't know. I think it's, I think you know that if I was starting today and had no resources, okay, what I would do is first ask myself, what value can I create in the world to get compensated the most for it? Like day zero, no fucking Dan Martell, no resources, no friendships, no nothing. Where could I get paid the most per hour for my value I create? And then I would start from there, and I would say, out of that income, and that could be 40 bucks an hour, that could be 50 bucks an hour. I'm pretty sure I could sell, because it is about selling, at least 100 an hour. If I can get 100 an hour, I can live off of 20, and I can use the rest for arbitrage. Meaning that I could probably pay somebody else 30 to do most of the work, and then have an admin to kind of take care of the operational infrastructure like invoicing, billing, scheduling, etc. Use automation to do a ton of other stuff. And then most of my time is going to be spent on building a marketing program and sales.
Yeah, makes sense.
But this is like day zero. So like I'm telling you, that's my formula. It's not a productivity thing. It's just a decision on where you spend your time. And I think that, you know, if you want to do 150 next year, then great. Do it the way you're doing it, and you may hit that. But I also know that if you don't set big enough goals, it doesn't force you to make different decisions. So my biggest suggestion to you is dream a little bigger. You know what I mean?
I get it,
Cool. Hopefully that was helpful.
Yeah, thanks. I've been watching the channel. I felt like you might have some understanding of the sort of unique difficulties in my situation, and yeah, it just came up. I didn't think very much about it when I saw the live stream. I I just sent the message because I've been paying attention to the channel. It seemed like a good idea. If you're thinking about coming to get advice from Dan, think through the questions and make sure that they're the ones that, and be prepared to hear answers that you may not want to hear.